What's up, guys? This is Braden Rakes. I'm out here today fishing a little farm pond, and I thought today would be a great day to talk about a few things that are helpful for everyone to know when it comes to just fishing in general. Jigs are really popular, and I thought we could talk about a few different styles of jigs to pay attention to when you're going to be fishing docks like the one I'm standing on right now. So let's get into it. So we got two different styles of jigs here in my hand. One of them, if you look, that little guy right there where the line tie is at the same degree point as the hook. So it's totally in line with the hook. And then we have a jig that's also an Arky style head where the line tie is not in line with the hook. So you can see the difference right there. And when you're fishing cover like docks, if you're going to be skipping up under docks with a lot of wood beams crossing and doing different things, I think it's really good to have a jig with a line tie that's on the same plane as the hook. And the reason for that is when it comes up, when you're pulling it towards the piece of wood, when it comes up to it, it's going to hit it and it's going to tend to deflect up and over, versus on a jig where the line tie is like this, it just has a tendency to hit and roll, and when it rolls it's going to hang up, and that's when you're going to get hung. I'm not saying you won't get hung with a line tie like this, I just think it's an odds game. And so for me, when I'm approaching docks that have a lot of beams, I like to go with a line tie that looks like this. And when I'm approaching maybe a floating dock or docks that are out over open water, you know, you can fish an Arky style jig head that looks more like this. And Strike King actually makes a structure, a skipping jig that skips really well, and I will use that jig in particular around floating docks and that kind of stuff. But yeah, so keep that in mind when you're approaching docks, and I hope this helps you put a few more fish in the boat. Another fish. Here we go. Got them turned on. There's a fountain out there. I think they're grouped up on it, so just kind of dragging it over the fountain and letting it fall seems to be doing the trick. So whenever I get stuck, I try to pop the line and get the line to almost knock the bait free itself. Which, you know, especially when you're fishing from a bank or a dock where you're kind of landlocked, you can't go over to it. You gotta use some leverage to try and get it free. I want to talk to you guys for a second about something that is really simple. Once you understand it, you'll be able to remember it for forever probably. But I get asked all the time by guys on how to skip a lure, and there's a couple really important tips that you need to know before you approach learning how to skip a lure. And I think the first one is, and just in general, when you're casting or when your bait is traveling horizontal, this little dial right here on the side of the reel is going to decide how fast the line comes off the spool. So the looser this is, the faster it's going to come off. So if you're backlashing while your bait is going horizontally, you need to tighten this dude right here. If you're backlashing when your bait hits the water, or you know, when your bait is in that more vertical motion, this is the guy you want to tighten right here. But when it comes to skipping a lure or anything like that, I like to leave everything set very loose. So if you'll watch, my bait falls very quickly over here. You just watch for a second. And the reason for that is I need it to be very loose so that it can get the right skipping motion. And it's really the same thing as if you were picking up a stone on the bank and just wanting to skip it as far as you could across the pond or across the lake. And so it's the same motion even while you're holding a rod and reel. And I think that's an important thing to put in your mind. It's just like skipping a rock or anything else. And for those of you wanting to learn it without backlashing, I would definitely recommend practicing with a spinning reel first. You can put a Senko on. There's baits that skip better than others, and but the bait I chose to use in this video right now is just a bladed jig. So I'm gonna skip this bladed jig, and hopefully you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. So it's just that real smooth motion. It's different fishing from a bank. And something else that really plays in, I'm normally standing in a boat and I'm not a very tall guy. So it's easy to skip with a 7-foot rod. Well, now that I'm, standing on a bank, I'm not a very tall guy. My feet are a lot closer to the ground. So really, if I was smarter, I'd be using a little bit shorter rod. So if you're fishing from the bank, trying to skip with a rod that's probably 6'10" is more the range that I would recommend for the shorter guys out there. But if you're tall, 7 foot, 7'2" would be fine to skip with. I really think it's more of a height thing and how quickly your bait makes contact with the water, if that makes sense. Try and keep them off the grass, but if I can help it, because that grass can wipe their natural coating off, that slime off, and it's kind of their natural defense against just the elements. So I try and leave that on, but it's a pretty little pond fish. We'll take it. It gave us a nice little trip. Chomp chomp. Grass coming in with this one. Made him feel bigger than he was. Another little guy, we'll take it. Gotta love catching a few on the phone. What's happening here is these fish are piled up right here on the end of the bluegill beds that are going down this bank. And I'm just, as soon as I get up to the bluegill beds, bite. It's like clockwork in here right now. Another one. Well, had a fun afternoon on the farm pond. Caught another little one. They're biting really, really good. So that's gonna do it for us today. It's been a blast, and we'll see you next time.